comment. We have,
Sorry.
I'm sorry. Before we convene the Pawtucket City Council, the first thing on our agenda for the council is public input. As far as I know, we have no one online, is that correct, Madam Clerk?
That's correct.
And we have just one person signed up in person, that is Mr. Pat Ford from 10 Admiral Street in Providence. Mr. Ford?
Thank you. In the interest of brevity, first of all, I'd like to inform you formally, if you're not aware, as a city council, that the city of Pawtucket was found guilty last week of 2 counts of Open Meeting Act violations. These were stemmed from a complaint by a citizen, David Fardoli, who, amongst a number of claims, all of which are on coalitionradionetwork.com, what they were found guilty of was a too vague and broad agenda. Let's speak to the importance of that. Agendas set the tone, not only just for the council meeting, but for attendance at the council meeting. I was alerted to the council meeting. Someone, as they say, dropped a dime with me and told me the true reason. And the true cause for that, if you will, that meeting was to create an environment where the city charter would be amended to revoke voting rights for people for the city school committee.
Mr. Ford, can I just interrupt for 1 second?
Yeah.
You said the council meeting. You meant the...
Sorry, the charter commission meeting,
Thank you.
which is a function of the city of Pawtucket. Thank you for the correction. So ultimately, the cause of the meeting was not benign, as it was represented in the vague agenda, as found guilty by the Attorney General. The cause was to remove voting privileges for the city school committee. There was no alternative proposition to maintain voting privileges, and one would have only known about that if one, in fact, had been told offline like I was, or had accidentally shown up just out of sheer civic interest. They were also found guilty of not properly noticing the meeting. Again, this is terrible for people looking to engage in critically important civic functions. While there was no formal, if you will, penalties, the city was put on notice that continued behavior could in fact result in penalties, financial and otherwise. To me, the important part of this is just the sheer shame of engaging in city government, where, quite frankly, things are done through subterfuge, through obfuscation, and sometimes outright lies. And for the first time in my memory, it may have happened in the past, now the city lead has been formally adjusted, so it can't be easily dismissed by the administration as some form of misinformation, as they are wont to do. The Attorney General of the state of Rhode Island found this city guilty of serious charges and serious violations of the Open Meeting Act. The second point I have to make in a similar vein, this is terrible. This is actually an embarrassment. I've been attending city meetings of a variety of types in a variety of places in a variety of states for close to 30 years. I have never seen anything like this. This is frankly an abomination. The notion that there's no seating, that there's no internet, that there's no anything. To have this in a sub-basement, in my personal opinion, for the sheer reason of speed, and not count scheduling it out a day or two so that it can be held at the Jenks High School, where this body, by the way, has met a matter of weeks ago. Folks understand the complexity involved with the structure of the building, the water, the elevator, and folks are willing to work with this. But to sacrifice open meetings for speed in order to push through what some would say is a $14 million railroad train, it's just beyond embarrassing. We're going to take footage of this. We will take the American Civil Liberties Union. We will blast it around the state that this is the way that the city of Pawtucket conducts business. Speaking of that, of course, is the subject at hand today, which is the purchase of the building. The city of Pawtucket is in no financial position to buy anything. It's not in a position to buy groceries, never mind a $14 million building. I would point out that Morley Field is in rubble right now. I drove by it last night, sheer rubble, with dust, dangerous chemicals all over the only green field in that part of town. Somehow, we can't find the money as a city to create recreational spaces for people in that community of all ages. We can't do that, but in a matter of weeks, the money, the wherewithal, the political will can be found for you to buy a $14 million building. And who knows, once that's fully investigated, and we will, what political favors, whatever nonsense, hijinks, balderdash usually comes out of these efforts in Pawtucket will come from that. The city, let's put it, and I'll close on this. I had the opportunity last year to visit Tolman High for an organization called Women in Trades, and the meeting was held for young women at the high school in the city's auditorium. As I sat there, and I'm not exactly hell on wheels getting out of places, getting into places, I'm packing up my material and I'm watching students file out of the room. I look up a couple minutes later and I see the same students filing out of the room, and a few minutes later that, I see the same students filing out of the room. I looked up, it turns out that gym class at Tolman High consists for several students, several hundred students, of walking in circles around an auditorium. I chose not to film it because I would never want to embarrass young people. I would never want to embarrass them about the failures of their parents and the leadership in their community. The city has acted unequivocally over the last 2 years that I've been covering the city school committee to do everything they can to prevent, delay, obfuscate, confuse the school department from properly building out and repairing facilities which have been voter-approved bonded for. NEAS, the National School Rating Agency, is just 2 months away, and the necessary repairs for Shea haven't been completed. The Stage 2 funding was delayed by some nonsense conversation with an absentee billionaire who at one point in time wrote on a bar napkin that he might be interested in buying the land. So I look at this building and I look at what can happen when political will exists to solve a problem. And then I look at everything else that's really important in this community, which is the community itself and the utter failure of this body to respond to even fundamental basic needs in this community. If you are to go out to the Apex building a couple of times a year, there are food giveaways which create backups into I-95. Yet you've got $14 million to spend on a building. The business of government is not to be a property management agency. Lisa Baldelli-Hunt from Woonsocket, the now former mayor, the now disgraced mayor of the city of Woonsocket, found that out to her own political demise. I would suggest that the same thing should happen to anyone who supports this legislation this November. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Ford.